iPads are useful for their purpose, but they are no substitute for brains.
All right, here we go.
I have to say, well done. Great. Well done. Well played, my adversary. Well played.
Phoenix isn't gay, but if he was, he'd pick Fremont.
Oh, yeah, he'd be living down there with you in the bunker, man. Woo!
Once you go free, you always do the Z.
Like one day I'm not going to Duncan, and you could get a controller, a new Xbox, possibly even a cord.
And now, the two guys that took 2 years to fix their audio problems.
Welcome to BGFG episode, what the hell are we on? 324. We're on 324 already. Episode 324, I'm your host, Chris Phoenix. This week's episode is entitled, well, I'm not going to tell you the title. You'll figure it out when you see it and after you listen. So it's been a long week, a lot of questions, a lot of things going on with politics and such. I really, again, we don't do a lot of politics here. I desperately want to talk about it, but it's not something I want to bring up because it just causes more tension and arguments with everybody else. It's right, wrong, my party, their party, his party, my party. It's a mess. And unfortunately, again, the not coming down for breakfast thing, somebody that's not coming down for breakfast that gets a golden ticket and towel for the next life, is none other than Eddie Van Halen. Eddie Van Halen passed away. Our music this week will be a Van Halen song, one of my personal favorites, and I'm hoping that's going to be one of our classic deep cuts. So let's get into this week's news first. That way we can get this underway and I can get to work.
BGFG News. You heard it here third.
So first up in this week's news, there's a big, I get a lot of questions about this, my kids, pretty much anybody else. I'm constantly getting questions about this, and I hear it. What's the difference between COVID and the flu? So in talking to some family, friends, and relatives that I have that are in the medical field, it's going to be tough to tell this year what the difference is between COVID and the flu. They're very, very, very similar to each other. First thing, every single person I asked, and I was at the doctor's office yesterday with my son. I had a doctor's appointment a few days back. I got two relatives that are in the medical field. I've got one of my good friends is in charge of nursing homes. So there's a lot of different things. The first thing every single one of them say, every single one of them, is this year above anything else, even if you haven't in the past, get your flu shot. I know a lot of people also that are all about the flu shot going, well, it's got some sort of bad stuff. It's got a chip in it for me. Okay, whatever. But this is one of those years you don't want to fuck around at all. Don't be one of those. Don't do that because it's going to get everybody else sick. You want to take care of yourself, your friends, and your family the best you possibly can, of course. And doing that, it's going to require you to go get a flu shot. The flu feels like you get hit by a truck. It's got body aches, fever, etc. I usually don't get the flu shot for my own personal reasons. And again, I'll get sick. Last year? Was it last year? It was either last year or the year before I got it. It's 3 days. It does feel like you get hit by a truck. Like I literally sat in my bed. At the time, I had one of those sleep number beds. I jacked that shit down to like 15. I totally sunk into the bed every time, and I just lay there for hours and hours and hours with no, because I already had enough body aches. But it just hurt a lot. That's the flu. COVID has the same, but adds just completely whacked out shit. So whenever you're around somebody and they want to know the difference coming into the flu season of whether they have COVID or the flu, I'd say one of two things from what everybody I've talked to. Look, you're going to feel like you get hit by a truck regardless. That's usually the flu, but you're going to feel like that a lot of times with COVID. If you lose your taste, your sense of taste and smell, that's a sure sign that is COVID. Get tested, get tested, get tested, get tested, get tested, get tested. I cannot stress this enough. In order to look, we can't shut down the economy. It's just not going to happen. I can tell you that in the states where I live and the nearby states are spiking uncontrollably. If we had these type of spikes in June and July, they would have said, nope, we're not reopening, not until these numbers go down. But now the cat's out of the bag. The economy's reopened. I know all retail stores right now are doing regular hours, unfortunately. So, there's people there all the time. So I'm getting double the amount of clients that I get in a facility. Now I'm getting double because everything's open and they know it now. So they can come shopping whenever. And they're doing that because of the almighty dollar and the almighty greed. They need to make their money because retail businesses made a shit ton of money, a boatload of money during COVID, from Best Buy to Target to Walmart to GameStop. They made unbelievable amounts of money doing curbside pickup because everybody was at home. They had extra income, and those that had disposable income to begin with could easily just shop at home and get whatever they want for whatever they want. The game industry skyrocketed, which we'll talk about later. But all the greed from all the investors, we can do that again. We can make sure that we maintain these numbers. They're unrealistic numbers to maintain, first of all. Second of all, there's no more injection of stimulus. Not right now. So all this extra money they think they're going to make during the holiday season, quote unquote, let me put the air quotes up. Holiday season is bullshit. It's not going to happen. You're spreading it out from October to December, first of all. So forget about that big push. And there's not going to be any extra money. People are going back to work or people are unemployed, which is, another issue. Unemployment is going up. The claims are going up. And this makes sense because the $600 stimulus package is gone. It's not there anymore. You get X amount of weeks and it's just gone. So I don't understand what you think you may or may not be doing. There's no incentive for people to go. There's no incentive for people to go back to work right now. A lot of them are going to be restricted, or they don't want to. Or I know several people that just flat out retired. I know a lot of teachers that that quit or retired because they were just done. But again, when they get off of the unemployment or they get off the stimulus, there's still no jobs for the ones that want to work. I know I just said that there's no incentive for people to go back to work, but a lot of these companies are laying off people because they're realizing that they don't need all those people any longer. The new curbside model for a lot of companies is working very, very well. So instead of having 4 or 5 people in a department, you can have 2 people in a department now at any given shift to run stuff out and confirm it on a tablet. It's much more cost efficient, but there's no jobs. I mean, first we heard our president turn around and say, I created 10 million jobs. No, 10 million people went back to work. That's kind of how this worked when we reopened the economy. You didn't create jobs. People just went back to work. But the problem with unemployment right now is a lot bigger than people think. There's still some people that are having trouble getting unemployment or staying on unemployment because of fraud. There's been a huge spike in fraudulent claims where people are basically saying that dead people, they're collecting dead people's money. There was one in, I wish I could remember the state. I want to say like California. I don't think it's California. I think it's somewhere in the Midwest. That they got caught. They were receiving their that's what it was. It was somebody that was turning like over 100, and they were going to send a birthday cake or a news team out there for the person has been dead for about 15 years. They've been collecting money from their dead relative for about 15 years. Now they went to court and they have to pay all that back, but that's crazy. There was over 10,000 people in Pennsylvania alone. Well, I shouldn't say that. Pennsylvania income tax, there was over 10,000 fraudulent claims. So a lot of payments are still late. I know when it first happened, when we first started getting the unemployment stuff, it took me like 6 or 7 weeks of getting no money. Thankfully, I had a little bit of money in my savings because I got no money for like 6 or 7 weeks. And I think it was almost 2 months, if not a little. It was probably about 2 months that I was supposed to be getting money, and I didn't because of fraudulent activities, and they were checking to make sure that our state was okay. So at this point, many companies have either called back workers or they just let them go, or people have retired. I know 3 or 4 people in my company retired. Several more were not welcomed back. I hate to say it, but if you know that guy that never got the call back, it's because they didn't want him to call back. It's awful. But again, look at the bright side. Those are negatives, unemployment, the possible COVID flu combination. But look on the bright side. We have people like Representative Katie Porter. This is California Rep Katie Porter, and she is freaking awesome. If you haven't looked at her when you get to work, if you listen to this on your drive and you get to work or you get home, just quickly YouTube Representative Katie Porter, representative from California. She is awesome. I would have been terrified if I had her as a school teacher, but she's probably the best representative you could possibly have. I mean, who cares what party she's with, really? When she's on the floor, just prepare to be called out. If she's in the subcommittee or the committee, just prepare to be called out. Her quote, one of the things she said that I thought was admirable was she feels that there's more incompetence than there is untruth in government right now. And she can't be more correct. I've heard doublespeak, big words. I've heard all stuff being used to basically mask another problem. But the idea of there's more incompetence than there is untruth is so nail on the head, I can't even tell you. When she was in the House Reform Committee, she took on Big Pharma, and she took them to the fucking task. They were there for the high cost of medications. So what I felt best was if I read some of the pieces of it, which I thought were brilliant. So she's been doing this for a while. She began her grilling of Mark Alice, the CEO of Celigen, until 2019 by asking about the company's repeated price hikes of a cancer drug, Revlimid, I think it is. So she was asking them, it cost $763 per fucking pill.
Don't look over here. Nothing to see here. Ooh, look at that.
Come on, $763 for one pill? And that's up from $215 in 2005. So she's on this committee. And again, as we spoke about on BGFG before, if you're ever flipping around the channels and you get to C-SPAN, watch it for a minute, because you'll see this gigantic room and you'll see like 2 or 3 people. That's because this is a committee. This is a committee that's been put together to ask questions of whatever the topic is, whether it's social engineering or anti-competitive acts or big pharma or any one of these things. The thing you need to pay attention to is the amount of people that are on these committees, because usually there's like 10, 15 people on the committee. Just because you're on a committee, apparently it doesn't mean that you actually have to show up to these things. Representative Katie Porter does. She's going. She's going to be the one. She's going to go out there and she's going to put everything straight. I just picture her. I'm like, sometimes I put on C-SPAN, and if I see her, all I can picture her just sitting up there at one point, like, shut up, to all the reps. She's just priceless. So anyway, so the Alice explained, the CEO explained that the drug was approved for new indications, but Porter stopped him dead front right there to ask if he had changed the pill in any way. And as soon as she asked it, she just stopped him like mid-sentence. It was like, have you changed that pill? And the guy, the CEO just looked up like, and she's like, did the drug start to work faster? Were there fewer side effects? How did you change the formula or production of Revlimid to justify its price increase? And he said the manufacturing of the pill remained the same. She then outlined, and this is the best part of her, she pulls out a fucking whiteboard. She literally, from underneath the desk, pulls out a whiteboard and a marker. And because she wanted to just outline the fact that in 2005, the pill cost $215. In 2013, it cost $412. In 2017, this is per pill. In 2017, it cost $719. And then today, it costs $763. Again, she asked him, has it increased at all? Nope, they never changed the pill at all. So the pill didn't change production, didn't do anything except was found to use for, I don't know, a zit cream. I have no idea. Something else it was found for. Next, she erased the marker board and started drawing again. $13 million, referring to his salary, the CEO's salary in 2017. $13 million. She's like, it's 200 times the average America's income and 360 times the average senior gets on Social Security. Then she made a calculation on the bonuses. She's like, you personally received $500,000 just by tripling the price of Revlimid. So to recap here, she says, the drug didn't get any better. The cancer patients didn't get any better. You just got better at making money. By raising the cost of the pill, you got more bonuses every year. You just refined your skills at price gouging. I absolutely 110% love this woman. I absolutely love this woman. Please, when you get to your destination today, pull up YouTube and just watch some of her, because it might be lengthy in some cases, but when she pulls out that whiteboard, she calls you out, man. It's done. It's done. You're all done. You got no choice at that point. Oh, I love that stuff. All right, let's get into this week's song. So this week's song, of course, we're going to do a Van Halen song because of Eddie Van Halen's passing. One of my favorite albums was Fair Warning from Van Halen. I thought it was a great album. I thought it was just rock and roll as much as you can. So here's a track off that album. This one's called Mean Street, and I don't remember this getting really a lot of radio play, if any at all. So enjoy this. This is just another one of those songs that just sounds really good. And then on the other side, we'll catch you for some stick style, some wonderful gaming news, and maybe some other things.
Same old faces and I hear that same old talk, and I'm searching for the latest thing I break in this routine. I'm talking some new kicks, ones like you ain't never seen. This is home. This is Mean Street. This is home. The only one I know. We're sick of these four walls. Now what you think is nothing might be something after all. Now you know this ain't no through street and this dead ahead. The poor folks play for keeps down here. They're the living dead. Come on down to Mean Street. They're dancing now. Take what's mine. We're searching for the latest thing I break in this routine. Talking some new kicks, ones like you ain't never seen. This is home. This is Mean Street. It's our home. Only one I know. See, a gun is real easy. turns you from hunted into hunter. You go and hunt somebody down. Wait a minute now. Somebody said, fair warning, Lord. Lord, strike that poor boy down.
The great Eddie Van Halen and the band Van Halen, Mean Street from Fair Warning. Just good stuff. This is a great album. If you enjoy that song, if you've never heard that song, pick up or Spotify or Pandora or Apple iTunes or whatever you do. Check out Van Halen's Fair Warning album. Good album. Let's get into this week's Stick Style.
Gaming.
Still the worst intro. It's partly so bad I want to keep it. It's awful. So last week, I think it was last week or the week before, we talked about the original Xbox. Here's a gigantic unit, one of the first consoles from Microsoft. They basically slapped a 786 motherboard in there, or a chipset motherboard in there. It was essentially a computer running a base Linux hybrid type thing. You were able to hack it with the Mech Assault demo disc. You were able to go in and actually root the Xbox so you could actually change it. I mean, I put Xbox Media Center on mine. It was awesome. It was really fun. It was like operating. It was just great. What you have today with Xbox on the computer was what we were able to do with the original Xbox with a little bit of hacking. We were able to do the same thing on the original Xbox, and it was a whole lot of fun. So today, because we'll talk about that in a minute, but you can't get your hands on anything really right now. So let's talk a little bit more about the original Xbox and things that people might not have known. So, for instance, the dashboard. Now, the dashboard, myself and Fremo, when he's around, we've all said the same thing. The original dashboard, the original friends list, and all that was perfect. It was exactly what you should want to be able to chat with your friends. It was easy to use, easy to pop in and out of a game, and utilize it. The new Xbox update for their Xbox Live dashboard is very, very much better than it used to be. Light years better than it used to be. But the dashboard in the original Xbox, I don't know if people knew this, but it used audio from NASA. So when you didn't have a disc in and you were going to beat up your brother to get the disc, that green screen that was in the background that had the swirling stuff in the background, the subtle sound that you heard was actually from NASA. NASA gave them some audio of space audio, I guess you could say. It was supposed to be originally called the DirectX box, which is where the whole thing came from to begin with. It was called the DirectX box internally. Another choice was Microsoft Interactive Network Device, or MIND. I think the DirectX box was kind of cool, and you can see where the Xbox came from because that was actually the working title most likely. So if internally it was DirectX box, then odds are most people that were working on it was just calling it the Xbox. So because DirectX was another piece of software they were working on, so the Xbox would have been a logical thing. Halo made the Xbox what it is, but it was originally being developed for Mac and PC gaming, was the original Halo by Bungie. And then, because Bungie, that's how Bungie cut their teeth, was computer gaming. And Halo was just a whole nother step for them. It paid off for them, no doubt. But it kind of like made the original Xbox what it was. I know I've said it 100 times. If I've said it once, the greatest gaming experience I've ever had. And I'm telling you, from Atari to Atari 5200 to Sega Saturn, Sega Dreamcast, all the Nintendos. I was there for launch titles, stuff like Mario Brothers on the NES. I mean, that was game-changing stuff. You had certain things back in the day. Pitfall was a big deal. There was all sorts of them. Nothing grabbed you like the original Halo on the original Xbox launch day. You couldn't, it took your breath away, because as you're playing it, and you had your standard run through the ship, which we've done a million times in games, just looked really good and it sounded phenomenal. But when you got down to the planet and you got out and you looked up and you realized that this was now an open world, that every place you can go to was game changing. Another thing they talk about is the Duke controller. Let me talk about that. So the Duke controller is thought to be one of the worst controllers of all time. I highly disagree. And I say that because if you're listening to this and you have big hands, like if you can palm a basketball or almost palm a basketball, standard S controllers, especially the early S controllers for the Xbox, were awful. They were cramping up your hands. I still get cramped up okay, so let me visualize it for you, those that are driving. On a PlayStation controller, if you have to use both the joysticks, my hands are so big that my hands underneath are almost touching, but my thumbs definitely will hit each other, without a doubt. They'll hit each other. On the Duke controller, you never had that problem. It was very similar. Another one that's considered to be one of the worst of all time is the Dreamcast controller. Again, another one that was phenomenal. If you had big hands, you also enjoyed ones like the N64 controller, because your hands were big enough to use the thumbstick in the middle where you should be putting your hand. Instead, you could keep your hand on the left and the right, and just your thumb could reach over to that joystick. Very cool. GameCube controller. Oh, there's too many buttons. I don't understand where all this is. The C button's way out of my... Not for a big-handed person. It just works. We're big-hand people. The Duke controller, I feel, is one of the best controllers. Especially back then, when you had your headset on, you had a black and white button. And I've mentioned this before, but I want to mention it again. You hit one of them, it speaks to the entire team, I guess you could say. Let's say Halo. It speaks to your entire team. If you hit a single button, it'll speak to the entire room. So you had your private team, your team chat, and then you had your group chat. I thought that was absolutely phenomenal. Just a brilliant way. Another thing that you might not have known with the original Xbox, NVIDIA was going to make the chips. And NVIDIA had some sort of falling out with Xbox, and they ended up settling something out of court, which is probably why you're still not seeing NVIDIA chips in Xboxes to this day. They're not in there. So they took a bath on this thing also. It took $425 to make, and brand new, it was $300. But you knew when you went in that you needed an extra controller for your friends, because that's the way it was back then, and you needed a bunch of games. So that $300 quickly went to $500. But it was $425 to make it, $300 to sell it. They're taking a bath on it. And then by 2002, it dropped to $200. But it didn't start making money until Halo came out. When Halo 2 came out and the Xbox Live, game changer. That they started making money hand over fist. Xbox Live, just like any company, and people get surprised all the time when it comes to laptops, say, which we'll get into in a second. Apple makes such no money. Apple takes a bath on every single product they sell. They really do. They take a bath on that. They make their money back in apps. They make their money back in accessories. That's why you see a charger. There's no more chargers put in phones now. The new iPhone 12 just dropped, and there's not going to be any charger in it. There's going to be a wire, but not a charging block. That charger block can cost you, depending on the product, can cost you anywhere from like $30 to $60. Multiply that by the millions that are out there. You're going to make your money back. A lot of retail companies used to be great to work in retail, and you get all these crazy discounts and everything. Well, you don't really get those crazy discounts anymore because there's not a lot of markup on any more products. There's very little margin now, very, very little. And that goes across the board for every single company, mom and pop, retail chains, local chains, local stores. There's not a lot. And if you mark it up too much to try to make a profit, nobody's going to buy it. They're just going to go someplace else. There's and when we're talking about laptops, here's another example of how they're going to take a bath. There's leaked images showing that the 3070 which is coming out soon. So you have the 3080, NVIDIA's 3080 GPU, which good luck getting your hands on. It's the creme de la creme, twice as fast as the 2080, half the price. The 3090 is not needed. 3080 is where it's at. 3090 is for more production people. 3070 is kind of like the sweet spot. That's going to be about $400 or $500. That's supposed to be equivalent to a 2080. That's a very big deal. That's a very big thing to tell people. So this leak appeared in a Chinese forum showing that the 3070 with 8 gigs was in a laptop, mobile laptop. Laptops are mobile, but it was a new mobile processor. That's a game changer. You know, if you can get that kind of graphics, if you can get 2080 graphics for an inexpensive or relatively inexpensive computer, that's where it's at right there. I mean, they haven't formally announced everything. We're going to have to wait till October 28th, I think, because AMD is going to make an announcement on the 28th. They've just released their processors, their CPUs. That's AMD, that is. That are going to fit the exact same chipset that's already out. So even a motherboard that was made, my motherboard's 2 years old. I can go out, you know, at the end of the month, and I can go buy a brand new AMD Ryzen chip, and it'll pop right into my motherboard without a problem. They're using the same exact chipset, which is huge. People don't have to upgrade that much. You're going to sell twice as much. I'd rather go out and I'll spend $500 on a new processor for my computer that's going to fit right in, as opposed to buying a cheaper processor because I have to buy the accompanying motherboard like you have to do with Intel all the time. So that's a big deal. Now, on October 28th, AMD is also going to release their GPUs. From what I've heard, I've seen a couple of pictures. From what I've heard, they're going to be comparable. Their mid-range is absolutely the same as the 3080, if not a little bit faster. Now, AMD fans are always going to say, oh, it's a little bit faster. It may or may not be, but if it comes close to a 3080, I'm buying it all day and part of tomorrow, without a doubt. So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's really cool of AMD to do, and it kind of shows what kind of douchebags NVIDIA is in a lot of ways, because if they put these 3070s in a laptop, they're going to charge extra money, and I can guarantee you from working in the industry, they're going to overheat. These cards run hot. I don't know how they're going to keep this thing cool at all. Say goodbye to your thin computer if they're going to put a 3070 or a 3080 mobility in there. It's just, I don't see it happening. And there's so many upgrades this year. I mean, you don't even know what to do, whether you have kids, you're buying for friends, family, relatives, nieces, nephews, or you're buying for yourself or your loved one. There is so many. There's new GPUs being video cards. You're going to have the AMD, and you're going to have NVIDIA's 30 series. You have new CPUs. You have the 10 series from Intel, but it's really nothing to write home about. But you do have the new AMD 5000 series processors that are going to be cheap in price, and they fit on the AM4 socket board, so you can use all the motherboards that have been around for 2-3 years now without any problems. You got new Xbox and new PlayStation. Good luck finding them. I work in retail, and we're not even getting a notice as to when they're coming in. They're just going to appear. We might get a 24-hour notice to put up some sales tags, emergency email, print these out type things, because nobody knows when they're getting them, as far as I know. There was a Twitter the other day that somebody sent me. They said, "Oh, Chris, don't worry about it. They're gonna have these out. Look at this. Yeah, that guy. That's some like fucking middle of nowhere mom and pop shop that finally got their order in from last Tuesday. They probably got 5 of them. 2 or 3 were already pre-ordered, and the rest of them they're going to try to sell. And the fact that you blasted it all over social media means nobody's going to get any. It's not like they're going to get 50 of them. It just doesn't happen. I haven't seen anybody get more than like 2 or 3 at a time. Even the larger chain stores apparently are getting X amount and have to be separated between all their stores, which is really messed up. But one of the things that excites me about this is with all the graphics processors, CPU processors, PlayStation, Xbox, all these things coming out, the graphics are getting really fucking good. They're getting so good that now you have some NBA players and wrestlers like Randy Orton. His tattoos that are on his body, some of the NBA players, I don't remember the ones, they escape me right now. His tattoo artist, Randy Orton's tattoo artist, Catherine Alexander, is actually suing the game companies because the graphics are so good now that you can make out all the tattoos and everything, and that's her artwork. So she's suing for that. I mean, this is a tough one. You got basketball players, you got wrestlers, any actors. Dave Bautista's one. If they don't cover up all of his tattoos, or The Rock, if they don't cover up his tattoos, are they gonna have to pay royalties now? If you're a celebrity and you get a tattoo, are you gonna have to continuously pay your tattoo artist royalties if you get a picture taken? And where do we draw the line? If you're YouTube famous, or if you do something stupid on YouTube and you get a tattoo, does that tattoo artist now sue you for defamation of character because you did something completely dumb and you had a tattoo on? Or maybe you're maybe you just committed a heinous crime and you were on TV and you have a tattoo that somebody did across your neck. Does that tattoo artist get to sue you now because they can't get any more business because you did the artwork? Not that they would know, but you never know. I just think I think it's tough. I think this is a tough call. I would not want to be a judge hearing that at all. The tattoo artist my wife went to go see for her sleeve, her Doctor Who sleeve. The first guy was just a total douche canoe. One of these artists that just, douchebag. I can't get away from it. He's like, no, you don't want color. You want black and white. Let me design it. She's like, well, I want this, this, and this, and I want to try to incorporate this. No, you don't. You don't know what you want. I do. We were like, thank you, goodbye. We're all set with you. And the guy's like, well, you don't know what I really wanted to bang him right the fuck out. You don't know what you want. Douche canoe. You know who's holding on, though, tightly? Is GameStop. I love bringing up GameStop. During the lockdown, the game industry friggin' exploded. You're talking the biggest gains that they've had in forever. This has kept GameStop alive. I shit you not. People doubt it, and we've talked here on BGFG about what they should do. They should, GameStop, if you want to keep going, because you've already shut down your online business of, shit. They had an online store that you could buy a bunch of statues and stuff. I can't remember. ThinkGeek. They shut that down and they moved all their assets into the individual stores and split them up. I thought that was a shitty idea. But you did it. Okay, fine. Brings us to the store more. We can buy used gear at the store, used controllers, used games, used systems. Again, perfect. Selling a game back to you is kind of iffy because you give us some shit money. You can pay $60, $70 for a game, leave, go home, play it, realize you don't like it, come back. You haven't even been gone 4 hours. Come back, and you've now gotten $15 for that game. So that's the only thing. That's where GameStop gets their balls busted. But we said here on the show before that the best thing to do is to open up GameStops, rework the insides so that you can have game systems set up there with chairs where people can go in and play. You can have tournaments like a couple of times a week, different types of games, different type of tournaments. This will give you local and regional tournament classifications. This will help esports move forward. Esports can then take all of this information that they're getting from GameStop. Okay, this guy's the best one in this region for Halo or for FIFA or for Madden. And we're going to have him come to Boston. And that's going to be the East Coast competition. You know, there's going to be the Midwest competition. You can do all sorts of things. And they didn't, or they were thinking about it. I don't know. But Microsoft, again, in a smart play, none of us know, and I've talked to Fremo on the phone, none of us are really sure what the hell Microsoft is doing right now. Between completely shitting all over their Microsoft Office product to we're never releasing another version of Windows, but oh wait, we're going to have Windows 10X. There's all these weird things, all the government contracts that they've gotten, the fact that they dimed out all the other major tech companies. When we talked about that congressional hearing between all the tech companies, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft wasn't there because Microsoft was actually the one that dimed them out. They said you should investigate them. So the whole thing's pretty shitty. But in a smart play, they injected some life into GameStop. What they've done is they've partnered with them to use their infrastructure that's already in place to push more of their products. Don't forget, we reported last week that Microsoft was closing all their kiosks. They weren't really working out that well. You can get some Microsoft stuff there. You can maybe send out a repair. There was very little that could be done outside of demoing some of their new products or their Xboxes or whatever the case was. And I think this is a good maneuver for them. I think this is smart because they can do a lot more things in the Microsoft Store. Now, if they do like they usually do, and I hope they don't, which is just completely and utterly gut the place and create new Microsoft stores that you can get games and shit at, is a bad idea, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did that. I hope they don't. But for now, at least GameStop's got a little bit more time before they completely go to hell in a handbasket. All right, let's get into our last segment this week. And for what it's worth this week, Apple's having some issues. Apple's having a few issues here. They have confirmed a significant battery and data loss in iOS 14, and there's really not going to be any fix for it. As of right now, the only fix that they give you is to erase all content and settings, which is the second down reset option. And again, most of the problems they're having right now with the watch and the phone is the battery drain. I haven't seen it on my devices. I don't have one of those devices. I have the operating systems, and I haven't really seen that. But I don't understand why everybody's complaining. I mean, you should be backing up your shit. I cannot tell you how many times during the course of a day I say that to clients. I mean, really, it is literally part of my normal verbiage to talk to clients is, have you backed up? You really should back up. Even when they're picking up computers and stuff, a good idea, now that you have our tech support plan, is that you should probably back up your system. We do it for free. Just bring us a USB. Back up your shit, okay? The old rule is, and I hope I remember it correctly because I've been doing this so long, is 3-2-1. 3 backups, 2 locations, 1 offsite. So what that means is, let's say, for instance, I guess I'm the best example of it. So I have 1 backup done on a little USB, like the size of your phone, external USB hard drive that I keep like around here, just for moving files A to B. And it's just a quick backup of a few things. And then I have a backup on my network attached storage. That's the actual backup. I also have a clone of my operating system down there because I'm paranoid, but a backup. And then I have another backup on another external hard drive that I keep in my truck in the glove compartment. Probably pull it out once a year to update it. But again, if something goes sideways, if my house lights on fire tomorrow, all my backups are gone. So I have one off-site that I can use whenever I need it. Now, that's a little drastic. For most people, just backing up. I know a lady that I taught this to, and she keeps a USB in her pocketbook. And that has all of her important information, Excel documents on it, and her resume. And she keeps that with her all the time. She pops it in every once in a while and updates it. That's brilliant. That's the way you want to do things, because then when shit goes sideways, and it fucking will, it always does. It's a freaking computer. Smarten up. It's going to go sideways. Something's going to break. And it's not because you went to adult sites. It's not necessarily because you went to Facebook and played the stupid fucking games. It could be just a website you went to wasn't as secure as they thought. It was injected with something. It got onto your computer and infected it. It's just that simple. It fucking happens. But if you have a backup, it won't. Oh, doesn't the virus get into my backup? No, not usually. I mean, it really has to be something. It has to be something for you to get. I mean, it's got to be fucking bad to infect it, like a picture. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's happened before, where a picture or a file gets corrupted and then you download it. Well, guess what? We've had a few people that have done that too. In their downloads folder, they had something that was corrupted, and they just kept opening it every time till we stopped backing up their downloads folder. Sorry, I'm sorry you lost everything in there, but it was infected. That's simple. So with Apple, if you back up everything and you wipe it, it fixes it. I mean, Apple's had a far worse problems with their phones, like the iPhone 7, than a battery drain, and it's fixed on a reinstall. They'll bounce back from this. That's not a problem. You know what else is bouncing back? Is Gateway. Gateway's back. Gateway brand with the spotted boxes, spotted cow boxes and everything. Way back in 2007, Acer bought them for $710 million. And now they're back with laptops, tablets, 2-in-1s. They're unfortunately going to be sold at Walmart. I mean, not to trash them too much, but whoever's Walmart's tech purchaser is a dolt. And I really hope he doesn't screw this shit up too, because all the gaming desktops that they sell are absolute garbage and very seldom get to your house with the right parts in them. You can look at that paper all you want, but that's not the parts that are in that computer. So there's going to be 11 devices total, and they will be at great prices. Like a 15-inch basic laptop's going to be $500. They're really working on the Gateway name. I'm hoping that they didn't just buy the Gateway name and then start buying generic devices and slapping the Gateway name on them, because that'll be really, really shitty. They do claim they're going to have some high-end Ultra Slims. They're going to be up around $800. But again, I don't know. And, now that I'm thinking about it, we've talked about the original Xbox. Let me scroll back here. We've talked about the original Xbox. We've talked about older video cards and how they're changing the game. We've talked about replacing all your current technology, like your Xbox, your PlayStation. We're talking about GameStop holding on, previous Apple problems, Gateway's back. None of this would be complete without mentioning Blackberry. And this is one of those moments I wish Freemo was here. As of August this year, TCL, parent company of Blackberry, said that they will no longer be making phones. Finally, Blackberry should be gone. Now, Freemo and I have goofed on this because it's the company that won't quit. Where there's some companies that just won't go away. BlackBerry's just one of those companies that is like, look, we get a quality phone here. People that use the BlackBerry with the actual keyboard love that shit, and they didn't want to get rid of it, ever. Their messaging and everything else, very business-oriented. Then when they went to a more smartphone type thing, people kind of complained. You still had a keyboard, but it was software. They didn't like that. Then they came out with a sliding one that had the keyboard on it, and it was okay. Then they came out with another one that was actually had it. It was a mess. They were trying to find their way, and they really couldn't. And they kind of went bye-bye, really. But now here we are at the end of the year, and an Austin-based company named Onward Mobility said, hell yeah, we're going to make some with the keyboard. So they got the contract, and they got allowed to make some BlackBerry phones with an actual physical keyboard on it. Their CEO stated that enterprise professionals are eager for a secure 5G device that enable productivity without sacrificing the user experience. Okay, good luck with that. Because BGFG loves them some BlackBerry. We love them mostly for still being around. Like AOL. There's a company that's still around that should go bye-bye, but they don't. BlackBerry, I wish they would succeed. I think they could have really done well if they did better business. Once the apocalypse happened, the only thing that's going to be left is just cockroaches and Blackberries, really. And old Nokia phones. All right, so, for a bonus this week, this news headline caught my eye, and it cracked me the fuck up. So, on August 19th of this year, astronomers discovered a possible 60s-era moon rocket booster heading back to Earth. Yes, heading back to Earth. This was from a 1966 Apollo mission, and it crashed into the moon's surface. And now it's suddenly heading back to Earth. It's, how exactly did this happen? Again, I have a bunch of moon theories, but I just want to say that in 1966, this shit was left on the moon. And now here we are, 2020, and it's coming back. How the fuck is it coming back? Because theoretically, if when we had people on the moon, when they jumped, they just stayed up a little bit longer. They didn't float off the top of the moon. So when we crashed a rocket, which is significantly heavier than a human, and that was laying on the moon, how the fuck did it get up? My theory is this. Aliens are already sick of our shit. That's what I think it is. I think aliens are tired of our bullshit, tired of littering already. Look, the human race is the human race, okay? And we don't do everything really smart the first couple of times. For instance, we have a wonderful space station. We're doing a lot of good things and research in there. What is one of the things we do? We're going to fire up some face cream from Estee Lauder. That's great. That's just what you fucking want. There's some shit that happens as a human race that you just can't understand. Trash is one of them. We have two companies. I can't remember the name of them right now. It's another story looking at a previous episode. two companies that are in a race to get the bid and the contract to clean up our outer atmosphere because there's so much waste and garbage and shit like that. Stuff that flew off ISIS, old rocket launchers, just debris, old satellites that have been shut down. There's just so much shit up there. And this tells me, I mean, the fact that we had a piece of something on the moon and then suddenly it's firing back at the Earth, it'll probably burn up in the atmosphere. But that's just fucking funny. I just think of it as the aliens just being like, you know, bullshit. Send that shit back. I'm tired of this. Crushed my car. That's my take on it. Oh, well. All right. I hope everybody has a good week. We hope to see you next week. And that's it for this week. Tense down. Show's over.
So you can find more of this garbage at bgfgonline.com. You can also send us an email with your questions or suggestions at bgfgshow@gmail.com. Find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast Podcasts, Castro, Castbox, Podchaser, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.